Hello. I was asked to write about triggers because we are currently in the energy pattern that is asking us to review and reassess and look back at things from the past that we may have either shoved down or ignored or haven't been addressing. And you may have noticed that the last few weeks that there's a lot of stuff that's coming up for us that might be triggering you. And I know that for me, triggers are definitely first and foremost in my mind as of late. One, because I'm listening to people's triggers, but two, because I'm also experiencing them myself on our fabulous human journey. So she asked if I would talk about how they are important to our growth and our process, and they absolutely are. They are not meant to torture us, but instead meant to teach us and give us the opportunity to look at what's going on that we wouldn't normally take the time to do. So in this energy where things might be people or ideas or different experiences that might be popping up that feel like, this feels really familiar. And sometimes in a really pleasant way and sometimes in a really unpleasant way where we might feel like emotionally jolted. You know, that trigger is when something occurs and we have an emotional reaction to it where we feel shaken up and we might be particularly angry, like extra annoyed or extra frustrated with a situation, or maybe really sad or really hurt by something that someone says or something someone does, or an opportunity you thought you had goes away, stuff like that, where it brings up emotion in us. And that emotion is very purposeful. It's energy, and it might be energy that has been repressed or pushed down or hasn't been looked at. And this becomes the chance for it to come to surface, so you can, one, allow it to move through you and exit your own energy field. And when that happens, you're able to see it for what it is. So when you are triggered by something, it could be that you're having a conversation with someone and you're telling them how you feel, and you feel like they're not really hearing you, or they're dismissing what you're saying. They might say, there's no reason for you to feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. That's not for you to experience, or whatever. It feels dismissive. It feels like you're not being seen, you're not being heard, you're being rejected, as if you are not valued. And that is triggering for a lot of people because it brings up experiences maybe from previous relationships that we felt like we were dismissed or ignored. Oftentimes it brings up early childhood wounds that come up that felt like we weren't important, or we were dismissed in some way, or we were told not to feel a certain way. And then that brings us to this place of anger, like, why am I not allowed to feel, or why am I not allowed to experience things the way that I experience them versus the way you think I should? So that can bring up a trigger easily where we have a really strong reaction to it. I know for me recently, I have been triggered by feeling like whatever I do isn't good enough. So I can be putting a ton of effort into something and I don't feel like it's seen, or I feel like it's being dismissed, or I'm being accused of things that I don't think I've done. And that makes me feel really defensive and really angry and feel like, what the heck? Like, what? I'm trying the best I can. Why is that not enough? So for me, when I sit with the emotion, I'm triggered, I'm angry, I'm upset by it, I feel very defensive. When I allow myself to let that anger, that energy move through me, one, it moves through me quicker because I'm not repressing it and shoving it down, because it did that for years and it worked so great. Letting it come up allows it to move through you, and then I'm able to, one, have relief, but two, also hear what's actually happening, listening to or feel my intuition say, this is a pattern. This is when you feel like you're not being enough. This reminds you of when your childhood, when you felt like you had to take care of your parent and nothing you did was enough. It was, you didn't have enough time for you, and you felt like, didn't feel like anything you were doing was enough, which leads to that core wound of, oh my gosh, nothing I do is enough. And then being really irritated by it and sad and angry. And then we lash out, and sometimes we lash out on people that has nothing to do with. But when we have those feelings, anytime that even remotely comes close to it, we'll throw it at that person. So that's why, like, if you're angry at an experience you had at work, you'll come home and maybe throw it on your family because it's a safe place because they're not going anywhere. So that's pretty common when our triggers occur. So what happens, the purpose of the trigger, again, is to let the emotion come up, to move through you, but then to also show you what is unhealed, what's asking to be seen. So in the case of, I don't feel heard, a question might be, where am I not listening to myself? If I feel rejected or misunderstood, where am I not listening to be me? Where am I not speaking my truth because I'm afraid I'm going to be rejected? Or where am I rejecting myself? Those are our deeper level questions to ask, because usually if there's an imbalance there, or we feel like we're not being heard, we have to say it louder. We're still not happening. We feel like we just have to like muscle our way through it, right? But it's not actually giving you the relief. Pause, listen, ask, do I understand myself? Do I hear me? How am I supporting myself? So basically, we're not getting rid of the triggers. They're still going to be part of our experience. But how do we support ourselves when we are triggered, when we do have that information? So when it happens again, and it will, because this is the human experience, we can say, oh, right, this happens when I'm feeling like I'm putting too much energy out, or I don't feel good enough right now, or my insecurities are high, or I'm extra tired. How can I support myself in that process? What can I give back to me instead of seeking it elsewhere? What can I do to support me? Maybe it's, sitting by a river, or maybe it is, as my friend said, having a glass of wine. Totally. That helps you move through the emotions. Great. A bottle, maybe might be a little more than you need, but anything that feels supportive for you at that time, listen to your body, listen to what it's asking that is supportive of you and not maybe extreme and hurting you or anybody else. Those are going to be the answers to those questions. And that's how you're going to support yourself through the triggers while you're learning from them.